Hello again.
Hello, good morning again.
Good morning. How are you again?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great and so looking forward to this talk. I see. Was there any problem the first time you tried to join in?
Yeah, it said that it was having trouble connecting. I got a
Okay.
message, trouble connecting to the live session or something like that. But I think we're
Okay.
good now.
Okay. That sounds good. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I know a lot of you were looking forward to this talk by Dr. Campbell. Uh, Thank you so much for pouring all the love and support, and that's the reason I'm able to invite all these great personalities who have done immense research in their field of expertise, and they're here to share all the knowledge with us. So thank you so much, Dr. Campbell, for being here. And before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to our audience. So Dr. Campbell has done immense research in the field of exercise science, and he's published more than 150 journal articles. He's currently an associate professor at the University of South Florida, and he teaches exercise science. He is one of the pioneers in the field of physique enhancement for women as well, and he studies nutrition, supplementation, and resistance training. He has authored a book called Sports Nutrition Enhancing Athletic Performance. I mean, I need to read out everything because there's so much to speak. I can't remember everything. That's the thing. So he's co-edited NSCA's Guide to Sport and Exercise Nutrition. He has also served as the president of the International Society of Sports Nutrition from year 2015 to 2017. And he's also co-authored the book Training and Nutrition Advice from the World's Experts in Baseball. That's a lot of work that you've done, Dr. Campbell. And thank you so much for being here. And could you please tell our audience something about yourself and how you got interested in this field of expertise?
Sure. Yes. Thank you very much for inviting me on your IG live. So my initial career started off in a totally different sector. I was in business or marketing. So my first job was selling bug killers and weed killer, had nothing to do with exercise science. And I was in my early 20s when I was doing that work, and I loved bodybuilding at the time. I liked sports nutrition, lifting weights, different types of diets, but it wasn't my profession. So I made the decision to go back to school so I could study something and have a career in something that I really loved and was passionate about. So it took me quite a few years to get all of my science courses that I needed because I had only had business courses before that. So I spent a lot of that time taking biology, chemistry, biochemistry, anatomy, and physiology, like all the courses to
Right.
prepare me for this. So then I eventually got my master's degree in exercise physiology from Baylor University. And then I also got my PhD at Baylor University in exercise, nutrition, and preventive health. And that took me to where I'm at now, which is the University of South Florida, which is in
Right.
Tampa, Florida. And that was my first job after I got my PhD. And hopefully it'll be my last job because I absolutely love working at USF. And I direct the lab called the Performance and Physique Enhancement Laboratory.
Right. Yes. And so I'm so glad that you decided to switch careers. I can sort of relate to you because I came to Truman. I went to the US to do pre-dentistry, and I was majoring in biology. And then in a year, I shifted fields because I was just not interested in biology, like plain biology. I was always interested in sports science and stuff like that. So I chose that as well. So I can totally relate. So thank you so much for that introduction. And Dr. Campbell, I would like to begin by asking you what's your definition of fat loss, and what do you think is a way that we can simplify fat loss for common people, because they complex it so much and then they remain confused.
Oh, I love that question. That's my whole philosophy, is to make things simple.
Right.
So my definition of fat loss is the loss of body fat. So we're not talking about just a number on a scale, because that's also might be some water weight, that might be some muscle loss. So the first thing I think that people should appreciate, when you look at the scale and the weight goes down, you can't take that as everything, because if you're educated on your physique, you appreciate that there's two main compartments, fat and other things, and which we usually call that muscle mass or lean body mass. But if you only focus on losing weight on the scale and you're not doing a couple other things, you might be losing a lot of weight as muscle mass, and that's never a good thing. That has some other problems with it. So now let me go to your other question, which is my favorite question. How can we simplify the process? And I think it's very simple. The first thing that everybody should appreciate is you have to lower your calories to lose fat. Now, there's some other strategies that can really help you in addition to that, such as types of exercise. What do you do with protein? How much should you reduce your calories? And I'm sure we'll talk about all of that stuff. But if you do nothing else, you need to reduce your calories to cause fat loss.
So that's the plain, simple definition that you put up as fat loss.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So when it comes to supplementation, I know this is also one of your areas of expertise. Is there a certain supplement that is a magic product for weight loss or fat loss?
I would say caffeine is probably one of the better ones. There's been, I think, out of all of the supplements studied in the realm of sports nutrition, caffeine has been studied the most. It's generally safe when taken in recommended dosages. It increases your metabolic rate. In many people, it will blunt hunger. So I would say caffeine is probably one of the best and safest supplements. But let me say this. Personally, when I try to lose fat, I don't take supplements to help me. I try to do it all through my food and my exercise. So yes, caffeine I think is helpful, but I choose not to use it.
And is there a blunting response if you have too much caffeine? You think the body will not respond anymore?
I don't think that would be the case, but if there's too much caffeine, it becomes dangerous. So you got to be careful. The typical dosages in the research literature suggest about 3 to 9 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body mass. So that's generally where it's deemed to be safe and effective.
I'm asking this question because in India, there are a lot of companies that promote weight loss through herbal teas and, just random pills, fat burners, and, people fall prey to it, and then they realize that it's not working for them unless they work for it. Like exercise and nutrition are an integral part of it, but they don't choose to do that, and they rely only on supplements. And that's when the problem occurs. So it's very good that you're bringing this up because it makes it clear to the population. Because the exercise science is still evolving here, and we still need some education in this field. So that's why I asked this question.
Yes.
Yes. And what would you suggest men and women, respectively, in terms of losing fat? Is there any difference between losing fat for men and for women? Any different conceptual techniques that you suggest them?
No. If I'm going to work with a male or female, I don't have any different plan because they're a female or a different plan because they're a male. They both need to reduce their calories and then pay attention to a few other main things so that we can be sure that the weight they lose is coming from fat stores and not from muscle mass. But I see no difference in the physiology of fat loss.
So you suggest resistance training to both men and women, right?
Yes. I would say if somebody hates resistance training, something is better than nothing. So do what
Right.
you like to do. If you like to go for walks, if you like to run, if you like to bike, if you like to play soccer, something is better than nothing. But if you're serious about trying to maintain muscle mass or change your body when dieting, then resistance exercise is the best mode of exercise.
Very, very nice to hear that, because a lot of, especially women in India, are under the notion or misconception that if they engage in resistance exercise, they will grow bulky, they'll gain a lot of muscle mass, they won't look good, and they'll also end up starving themselves, which again, they fall into the same vicious cycle of. I even know people who have gone to dietitians who suggest them only liquid diet, only juices the whole day, no protein, nothing, and they end up losing weight. They're so happy, and then within a month they gain everything back, and they're back to the same square.
Yeah. So let me encourage any female who thinks they might gain a lot of muscle from lifting weights. And again, I'm speaking as a scientist. Generally, that's never going to happen. It's maybe one female out of 1,000 females will she quickly put on muscle. But let me challenge the female who has that fear. Let's just say this. Let's ask you to lift weights for 1 month, just for 1 month, 3 or 4 days per week, and see what happens to your body. If you're gaining tons of muscle, then stop. But if you're not gaining a lot of muscle and you actually like how your body's feeling and you like how it's looking, then I would tell you to continue to do it. So don't let your fear stop you from trying. I'm telling you to try it, and I'm telling you what you're going to realize is you're not going to gain muscle very quickly, if at all, especially in a month. So just don't be fearful of trying something, would be my message.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, and I hope all the women listen to this and implement it, because if you're not going to apply the advice, then you're going to be stuck in the same position. So please understand and try to engage in resistance training. And is there a minimum number of times a week you suggest people training in resistance training per week?
I think, well, again, something's better than nothing. So if somebody can only go once, go once. But at a minimum, if you're able to go 3 times, that would be ideal.
3 times a week. And would that be full body workouts?
Yeah, for beginners, I think definitely full body. Now,
full
personally,
body.
Yes. For beginners,
yes,
that can start to change a little bit more. There's all kinds of different programs, but for somebody starting off, if you can try to do whole body 3 times per week, that's a great stimulus to your body when starting out.
Okay. And is there any disadvantage of engaging in too much cardio to lose fat?
No, if the goal is to lose fat now, cardiovascular exercise will burn calories. But if you're looking at trying to lose fat over time, let's say over the next 6 months, resistance exercise is actually a better form of exercise than even cardiovascular training. So cardiovascular is better if you're trying to lose fat right now this week. Resistance training is better if you're trying to lose fat for the rest of your life.
Well, again, I'm asking this question because I have come across a lot of clients, and especially female clients, and sometimes even male clients, who just want to engage in running the whole day, like 1 or 2 hours of running every day, and then they don't end up getting the body composition that they desire. They start losing muscle mass because of negative protein balance. Which is my next question: is that when it comes to macronutrients, what do you think is the proportion you suggest for fat loss and muscle gain at the same time?
So your question was, what do I suggest for macronutrients to lose fat and keep muscle mass?
Yes.
All right. So the first thing I think you need to do is determine your maintenance calories. So what is maintenance calories? Maintenance calories is the number of calories that you need to eat or that you do eat every day so that you're not gaining weight or losing weight. That gives us a baseline to know how many calories we even need to reduce our calories to cause fat loss.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I encourage people to find their maintenance calories is take 2 weeks of time and write
Mm-hmm.
down everything you're eating, calculate how many calories you're ingesting, and also make sure that you're taking your body weight every day. And then over those 2 weeks, see if you're gaining or losing weight. And I think the best approach is to take a weekly average of your body weight. So now let's say that we have a female and we realize that she's eating 2,000 calories per day. And that is her maintenance calories. Now, and what that means is 2,000 calories is not a diet for her, and it's not going to cause her to gain weight. So it's exactly where she needs to stay the same weight. So now we have to ask the question, because earlier we said you have to reduce your calories. Well, now we know from where to reduce from. So I think a good place to start for most people is a 20% caloric reduction. So in her case, that would be 400 calories less than 2,000. So now she's eating 1,600 calories per day. So how does she fill those 1,600 calories? That's a very important question. If you're not careful when you do that, you may lose a lot of muscle mass and you might not even lose a lot of fat. So we want to be careful. So the thing that I do first, after determining how many calories we need, is I fill those calories with protein. Not all of them, but I prioritize protein. And that does two things. If we have enough protein when we're dieting, it helps us keep our muscle mass, and it helps us keep our metabolic rate high. And we'll talk about metabolic rate in a little bit, because that's very important to be successful in a diet. So I recommend that people, they eat at least 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body mass when dieting of protein. So once they have those calories done, now we have some left over to get us to 1,600 calories. And I would say it doesn't matter. If you like carbohydrate foods, eat more carbs. If you like protein foods or fatty foods, eat more fatty foods. So you're not eating above 1,600 calories, and you're filling probably about a third of them with protein.
Okay, that's great to hear, because that's as and when you were speaking a few facts, more and more myths are being debunked. Because another myth that's going around in you know, a lot of people here is that eating a lot of protein might damage my kidneys. Is that the case? You think that happens?
Oh, eating high protein is bad for kidneys?
Yes, yes.
Oh no, I'm not aware of even one study that has shown that high protein intakes are harmful for your health, for your kidneys, for your liver, in any healthy individual. Now, if somebody has kidney disease or they're not healthy, there may be issues. But in healthy people, I'm not aware of any science to. In fact, Dr. Joey Antonio from a university in Florida, he monitored people's blood work for about 1 year with really high protein intakes, and there were no health issues, nothing negative about consuming a high protein diet.
And would you suggest the same thing for supplements? Because I have heard from some of my clients that if I consume whey protein, that might damage my kidneys because it's not a natural form of protein.
No, because whey protein is a natural form of protein. I mean, whey protein comes from dairy milk, so it's you know, it's teased out, so to speak. But once again, I'm not aware of any health issues. Now, some people do have digestive problems when they take certain types of protein, So there they just need to experiment. Maybe soy protein would be better for them in that case, or another type of protein. But there's, again, no evidence to suggest that it's harmful for your kidneys in healthy people.
I mean, I have been through this phase because I used to get irritability with whey protein, so I stopped consuming whey protein, and I just focused on like eating meats and chicken every day, and it was just fine. There was no difference at all. So as long as I think, I could have, as long as a person can balance their food, they wouldn't need any supplements. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, you don't. Yeah, you don't have to have supplements.
Okay, that's great. And since we are talking about nutrition, India is one of the countries, actually the largest country in the world that has the most vegetarians, and not vegans as much, but more vegetarians. So I think 40% of Indian population is vegetarian. And I feel from the time I've come back from the States and I've observed, the most important thing that I feel is they lack enough protein in their diets. They do consume lentils and pulses and beans, but I don't think they have enough. I don't know for what reason, but is there any suggestion for vegetarians or vegans that you would like to give in order to make sure that they eat enough protein per day?
Well, if the goal is to optimize their physique, we know that a higher protein diet is better for making for looking better. So you have to realize that. I mean, again, we have multiple studies suggesting that. Now, what you can do is if you don't want to take animal sources of protein, soy protein is a really high quality protein source that is high in the essential amino acids. It's I think methionine is the one essential amino acid that's a little low in, but there's potato protein, there's rice protein, pea protein. There are vegetable sources or plant sources of protein that a vegetarian could take to help them get to their protein goal. So that would be my advice. And I just learned the other day that corn protein, and I don't think they've commercialized that yet, but corn protein is really high in leucine. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I read that on your page and I was surprised too.
Yeah. Yeah, if you email me, I'll send you that study of all. I don't know if you already looked at it, but that whole study was on plant proteins and comparing them to animal protein sources. It's a great study, and it's the more I'm learning about plant proteins, the more that I'm liking them and embracing them.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Yes.
Let me say, animal proteins are better. Animal sources are better, but we can do a lot of good with plant sources of protein.
Yeah, so the next question was related to that. So you think it's a little hard for vegetarians or vegans to manage the quality of protein? Do they have to be very attentive or careful about what they eat?
Yeah, I think they definitely have to be very educated on their protein sources to make sure that they're mixing and matching, non-essential with essential or incomplete with complete proteins. They do have a higher burden or a hurdle to get enough protein and to get enough quality essential amino acids, but it can be done.
Okay. And Dr. Campbell, when we talk about fat loss and weight loss in women, have you encountered anyone who has irregular menstrual cycle and how that would affect a weight loss or a fat loss? Is there any study?
I'm not very knowledgeable on that physiology. Now, I do study a lot of bodybuilding or bikini and figure female competitors.
Right.
And
yes.
A lot of them will lose their menstrual cycle when they're dieting for competition. Now, I'm not suggesting that's a good thing. I'm just saying that's what happens when they get really lean. My research really focuses on people who don't necessarily want to step on a bodybuilding stage. So they're more normal people who want to optimize their physiques within a maintainable lifestyle. So I guess a question that I like is, how lean can you get without losing your menstrual cycle? And maybe that's a great place for somebody to live in terms of their body composition. But I'm not aware of the menstrual cycle itself causing or hurting or suppressing fat loss. Fat loss is going to be governed by how many calories they're ingesting. And then as a product of that, they may lose their menstrual cycle if they get too lean.
Okay, this is great. Because so coming back to the topic of resistance training, I just want to share this example that I was really surprised at. I just overheard one of my clients that he went to a dietitian, and then he said he wanted to lose fat, and he was more focused on the numbers on the scale rather than just fat. And the dietitian told him to, first thing, stop resistance training. Second thing, you cut down your protein to half, which is exactly opposite to what is good for us. And he lost about, say, 8 or 10 kilos in a month. And then his weight loss stalled. He gained some weight. A lot of other fluctuations happened, and he wasn't happy at all. So my next question is about this: is that, does weight loss need to be immediate, or is it better over long term?
Yeah, so I don't like quick or rapid fat loss at all. If you try to lose weight quickly, two things will happen. You'll lose muscle mass, and your metabolism will lower. And when your metabolism goes down, two things happen. It's harder to keep losing weight, and the likelihood of you gaining weight in the future is much higher. So if you have a slower metabolism because you lost weight quickly, you've just set yourself up for failure in a month from now or 2 months from now. So we need to do everything we can to keep our metabolisms high when dieting. And two ways to do that: high protein, resistance train. Exactly the opposite of the advice.
Exactly. I was thrown aback. I mean, I was like, how could the person even say that? The person was having protein that was about, I think he was consuming just 0.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. That's all. And that's really less.
Yes, and somebody just had the question. This is the associated with the concept of metabolic adaptation. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, I'm not. Oh, there are so many questions here. I couldn't even see it. It just went past.
No, that's okay. I just saw one of them. So somebody's pretty highly educated to ask that question.
Yes.
So, and let me just say, we talked about this earlier, but that person who took the advice of lowering protein, stopping resistance training, they are fooled by just the number on the scale. They're not caring about fat versus muscle. So you have to be careful. And I would also say, if you can get your body composition tested about every month, every 4 weeks, that can kind of guide you to see if you're losing muscle or if you're losing mostly fat. And you asked about losing weight quickly. I suggest that you don't lose more than 1% of your body weight per week. And that's the most you should lose in a week. Because when you start losing more than 1% per week, that's when you start to have more muscle loss, more of a suppression of metabolic rate.
So coming back to, sorry, please go ahead.
Oh, so that's just a guide, a general guide of no more than 1% of your current body weight per week that you should lose.
And when it comes to quick fat loss or weight loss, I've heard of this phenomenon called metabolic damage. So does that happen at all? Like, does the metabolism completely blunt itself, and then it's hard for you to get back to normal metabolism? Does it happen?
So when I hear the word metabolic damage, what I think of is when you lose weight, I'm just going to try to use my your weight goes down, and so does your metabolic rate. That naturally follows your weight loss. Now, again, we can do things to help that. Metabolic damage, or this metabolic adaptation, is where your metabolic rate goes down more so than what could be predicted from just weight loss. Now, again, the things we can do to help that are higher protein and resistance training when dieting. And then you said a metabolic damage term. Is it hard to get it back? In my experience, if you slowly increase your weight after a diet, your metabolism comes back without an excessive amount of fat loss. But you have to be careful. If you lose 10 kgs or 5 kgs in a month, and then you stop dieting, what's going to happen is your metabolism is so low that as soon as you go off the diet, you're going to experience what we call fat overshoot, where you're going to gain weight, and almost all of that weight's going to be in the form of body fat. So now you're worse off than when you started the initial diet.
Oh, okay. Wow. That makes sense. And the only way to get out of it is slowly introducing protein and calories in the food over time.
Well, the way that you want to, I think you have to look at it is, how do I prevent fat overshoot from happening? And you prevent it by not losing weight quickly. Take time to lose your weight. And when you are losing the weight, do everything you can to keep your muscle mass high. That whole fat overshoot theory of gaining a lot of weight back as fat, if you keep your muscle mass, that's the best thing you can do to prevent that from ever happening in the first place.
Okay. And Dr. Campbell, did you ever notice that stress levels or lack of sleep affect a person's fat loss?
So that is not something that my lab has researched.
Okay.
But what I have learned from other experts, other high-level physique coaches, other scientists, is what they tell me is that the amount of stress that you have has a big impact on your body's ability to lose fat. So it's nothing that I can point to a study and say, here, I've seen it. This is more me learning from people that I respect in the field. So Ben Pakulski is a guy who lives in Tampa. He's a former bodybuilder. He works with a lot of weight loss clients. He has impressed upon me the importance of trying to manage stress levels. And he suggested if you simply go for a walk every day, that has a big impact on helping manage stress levels. So again, I don't know the science of that, but I believe this stuff is true based on my respect for other people that have a lot of experience in the field.
Okay, thank you. And when it comes to different strategies to lose fat, like I think you just published a study just some time ago about like refeeds.
Yes. Yep.
Yes. So could you please enlighten us about that study?
Yeah. So we spent so far our time talking about dieting, and you should do this. Something I haven't said yet, and I'm glad you asked, is you shouldn't spend week after week and month after month in a diet, in a caloric deficit. You should take breaks from your diet. So let me tell you what we did. And we just published this study. And by the way, it's a free study. Everybody can access it. If you Google my name, Bill Campbell, and the letters JFMK, that stands for the Journal of Functional Morphology and Kinesiology, that article, I believe, will come up in your search.
Okay.
So we had two groups of people. And by the way, remember, everything I've been saying so far is when you diet, we want to try to keep your metabolism high and we want to keep your muscle mass high. So the study that I'm going to tell you did exactly that. It helped our subjects do this better. So we had two groups of subjects. One group dieted for 7 weeks straight, and we reduced their calories by 25% from maintenance levels. and we kept their protein at 1.8 grams per kilogram of body mass. And they also lifted in my research lab, my physique lab, 4 days per week. So we're doing everything we can to help keep muscle mass high and keep metabolism high. The second group did the exact same thing, except we said every weekend, don't diet. Take a break from your diet. So we want you to go back to your maintenance level calories, and we want you to increase your calories in the form of carbohydrate. Everything else they did was the same, but that did mean on Monday through Friday, they reduced their calories by 35% instead of 25%, because on the weekends they increased. And that way, at the end of the week, both groups on average had a 25% caloric reduction. So again, one group, 7 straight weeks of dieting. The other group, 7 weeks of dieting, but they kept taking 2-day breaks every weekend. And what we found at the end of the study was that the group taking the diet break, or the diet refeeds, we're calling them refeeds, they were able to maintain their muscle mass significantly better than the group who never took a refeed, who never increased their calories, and they were better able to maintain their metabolic rate. So the two things we want to do when dieting, taking a break from the diet, help them accomplish that.
Okay. And when it comes to, I just have a list of questions. And so do you think this is the best way of going for fat loss, the taking diet breaks? You think that will work the best for even the general population?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that may not be the best for an obese person. My study was in lean people trying to look better, and it's only one study. So we have to be careful, because when there's only one study done, that might not be representative of how everybody would respond. So we need more research. I need to say that. But right at this time, my opinion is that yes, if you're going to go on a diet, take breaks from the diet. Take a week every 3 weeks or every 2 weeks. Or like we did in our refeed study, every weekend, take 2 days off. And something else that does, it forces you to take a longer period of time to lose the weight, because you're increasing your calories. Now, in our study, they did lose the same amount of fat and the same amount of weight as the people who didn't have these refeeds. But my short answer to your question is yes. I believe that a diet break or refeeds in your diet is a better approach to weight loss.
Okay. And Dr. Campbell, so for normal people, normal citizens, it's a little hard to track their calories, by the number. So is there something you suggest, any tracker? Are they accurate? If not accurate, how can we, account for the error that might come in managing the calories?
Yeah, so I personally use an app called MyFitnessPal.
Yes.
And I don't know how popular that is in your country.
Very popular.
Okay. And most of the subjects in our research studies, that's what they use as well.
Okay.
But if somebody's not going to track all of their calories, then my advice would be, okay, just try to get more protein in your diet. If you do nothing else, increase your protein, because that alone can change your body composition, just increasing your protein. Now, in terms of the error, I think that tracking your foods and the calories is a skill, just like riding a bicycle, just like trying to learn how Instagram works. You get better the more you do it. So it's the same thing there. You're going to get better at recognizing how much a cup of rice looks like on a plate, or how much particular like soy protein might look like in a scoop, or whatever food you're going to eat, you become more skilled at being accurate in that.
Okay, that's great. Because when even I track my calories and make them so intuitively, I sort of know how many calories I'm eating. So that's the reason I know where to maintain it and where to increase or decrease it. But that comes over time. But I know, yes,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you made a good point. You intuitively now know what to eat. So I think
Yes.
you're at an advanced stage of what we would call intuitive eating, which is where you don't really have to track everything all the time because you've taught yourself. Now, I think the best way to get to where you're at is to track for 3 months or 6 months. That forces you to learn serving sizes. It forces you to learn what a protein is, what a carb is, what a fat is. And then you're ideal where you don't have to do that anymore because, again, you've taught yourself that skill.
Right. So exactly what you said. I had started tracking my calories for about a year, and after that, I got used to it. So it took a while, but then it was natural coming to me directly. So it was fine.
Yeah.
And Dr. Campbell, during this time when we are all stuck at home and we have no access to gyms and no resistance training, how do you think we can manage maintaining our muscle mass and not putting on fat? And even if a person was wanting to lose fat during this time, how would they go about it?
So are you saying if they can't go to a gym, they're stuck at home?
Yes.
So in terms of keeping your muscle mass or even trying to gain muscle mass, fortunately, the scientific literature reports that if you lift even light weights, let's say you can get 25, 30 repetitions. If you can go to failure or near failure within a rep or two short of failure, and when I say failure, that means that you can't lift that weight another time with good form. If you take it to that point, you can build muscle mass. Now, ideally, you're going to try to find things in your house that you can lift that make you reach failure around 30 repetitions or possibly 40. If you're going to go up to 70 repetitions or 80 repetitions, you can still gain muscle, but not as much as if it's on the lower end of that repetition range. So you're going to have to find things that you can lift to get, maybe it's push-ups, maybe it's pull-ups, body weight squats, or holding a chair while doing squats. But as long as you go to failure, which hurts, it gets a lot of lactic acid, it's not pleasant, but the research is consistent that you can build muscle mass even with light weights.
Okay. And Dr. Campbell, so there are a lot of diets going around in the market here. Some people are more inclined towards the ketogenic diet. Some people want to do intermittent fasting. Some people just want to do a moderate protein, high carb or low carb diet. Do you have a particular diet that you suggest individuals who want to lose fat and gain muscle?
Yeah, so I've always said that the best diet for everybody is the diet that they will stick to, the one that they would adhere to. So if somebody loves the ketogenic diet and they love high-fat foods, that's the best diet for them. Now, for most people, I don't think that's going to be the case. Intermittent fasting, if that's the best for you, then do that. Now, if I'm going to say for the mass, the general population, I think a flexible, protein-anchored dietary approach is best. So let me explain that. A flexible dieting approach is one where you calculate the calories that you need for that day. And when I say protein-anchored flexible approach, I mean that we're going to get at least 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body mass. You're going to try to do that every day, and that fills some of those calories. And then for the other calories, you choose the foods that you normally would eat, and you just make sure that you don't go over your maintenance calorie level. Or if you're trying to lose weight, you lower your calories and you don't go over that amount. So the reason I think flexible dieting is probably the best approach for most people, it works with your natural food preferences. It doesn't eliminate food groups. If you typically like a lot of rice, well, then have a lot of rice. If you don't like rice and you'd rather have oats, well, then have oats. If you don't like, I think you get the point. It works with your natural likings of food. And I also have this statement: dieting is hard enough. I don't want to add more hurdles or make dieting more difficult. So as much as we can, let's work with your natural food selections.
Oh, that's a great answer, because a lot of people think that you have to eliminate a certain food group, you have to restrict yourself, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. But I don't think that's the truth. I think they can eat whatever they want as long as they maintain the protein intake and then manage out the calories.
Yes.
Yes. So Dr. Campbell, thank you so much for answering the questions. And I'm sorry, there was one more question. Does the number of meals you have per day dictate the fat loss?
So the research would say no, it doesn't matter. And I'm aware of about 5 different studies where they compared 6 meals versus 3, 4 versus 2, 14 versus 6. And in every study, more meals, a higher meal frequency is never better than a lower meal frequency, assuming that calories are the same.
Right.
Now, what we don't know yet is when we focus on protein timing, should we get protein 3 times per day or 5 times per day? There's still a lot to be done with that particular question. And the reason I even bring that up is if somebody's following intermittent fasting, are they possibly doing harm by avoiding protein for a large portion of the day? We don't know yet. We need more research in that area.
Okay. Awesome. So Dr. Campbell, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us here. I know a lot of people learned from you today. I had a lot of clients, a lot of fitness enthusiasts who were excited for this session, and I'm sure they're taking notes and they'll apply all the knowledge that you've provided in their daily lives. Do you have any place where we can access your content? I know your Instagram has a lot of interesting like Q&As, and then there's a reason at the end you give with the full study. So that's really informative. So everybody should follow Dr. Campbell on Instagram for that. But is there any other place where we can access your content?
No, that's the only place that I'm active is my Instagram account. So if you're following me on Instagram, I put everything on Instagram.
Oh, that's great. Okay, somebody just said he's the best. You are the best.
Well, thank you very much. I know that person, Fitness Bond. I don't know her personally, but
yeah. Okay. And thank you so much, Dr. Campbell, and I hope you keep safe during this time. And if is this the first time you are attending to an Indian audience?
Yes, it is. This is the first time. I was very excited when you asked me for this.
Yeah, that's great, because so far we've had 3. You're the 3rd speaker, and the first speaker, Robert Linkle, was the first one. Number 2 was Mark Nutting. They both had addressed the audience in India for the first time. So you also the first time. So I'm glad you got this experience, and I'm so thankful to you to do this. We're honored to have you, and I hope to meet you soon someday when you come to India and do a seminar here for us.
Oh, that would be great. Yes. Yeah, that would be awesome.
You're also part of the NSCA, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So what is your role in the NSCA, or are you an active board member there?
I'm not a board member. I was recently on the nomination committee, and my term just ended last year. And the nomination committee, what we do is we identify some of the leaders, and then we present them for the membership to vote on to become the next president or to become the next board member. So that was my role. And at this point, I'm just an active member, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for your time, and I pray that you keep doing the lovely work that you do, and keep inspiring all the students in India to pursue something that you were doing.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for being here, and you stay safe and take care.
All right. You too.
Bye.